Hey folks, Raymundo here, bringing you another video. This one's how to be a trustee. Um, Being a trustee is something probably you've never done before. You're the top dog of the thing. You're the responsible party. You don't have no boss. There's no manager. There's no owner that you need to report to make sure you're doing everything right. It's all you, and you really could say you work for the beneficiaries, but everything you do is really totally on your own. You got to do it. You got to execute it. You got to be confident in it, and then you got to put it away and kind of forget it until it's needed. And you'll do a lot of stuff like that will never be needed, but it's okay. That's doing things in equity, doing things right, taking care of things. Not trying to skirt anything, trying to get something for free, try to be tricky. Just doing the right thing. So let's get into it. All right. There we go. So just to review a little bit, you got to remember that a trust splits the ownership between the beneficiary and the trustee. Right? The beneficiary is responsible for nothing. The trustee is responsible for everything, but the trustee doesn't own anything, and the beneficiary does. So because of that dynamic, because of that relationship, the fact that the individual that's running things isn't the owner, there's zero liability. It's similar to the relationship as if an employee did something on behalf of the company or whatever that might have caused damage or hurt somebody. The company's liable. They got to take care of it. All right, the individual doing it doesn't, and same thing with the trustee. Okay, so it's just important to have that crystal clear. So when you're doing stuff, you don't build up a lot of anxiety thinking you're going to be, in trouble. You're as long as you're not doing fraud, you're fine. So in the process of being a trustee, a lot of stuff that seems a little intimidating is the idea of adding trustees or even getting help to do stuff. Like I just said, you're the performer. You're the one doing everything. It's easy to think, well, if I have to do everything, it's too much. Well, you can add trustees to a trust. It's common to have a secretary trustee or a treasurer trustee. But the reality is you can make any type of trustee with any kind of title you want. You can have your Colorado trustee and a Washington trustee, or an automobile trustee, or a investment trustee, or a whatever. You can do anything you want. And I mean that. There's standard stuff like secretary and trustee, but the reality is it's your world. You can do whatever you want. So to get help managing your trust, if it's just you and a bank account and maybe a vehicle, you may not need other trustees. But if you have property, lots of property, or high value, or just lots of stuff, you may need help. And so you can always add a trustee. If we go through the Constitution, in that document, it shows, what's the maximum number of trustees you might have, or how many trustees are you going to have in the first 6 months. Nothing's set in stone. If you put in there that you're going to have a maximum of 5 trustees, then you're going to have a maximum of 5 trustees. Otherwise, you're going to have to redo your trust. If you put 21 trustees in there, nothing says you got to have 21 trustees. It's the maximum. Now, the other thing you can do is add agents. Now, we're going to go into this a little bit more about adding folks in a different video. But it's a good thing to really understand, because a trustee, you add a trustee, they have the same power as you do to your stuff. Okay? They have the same access and same ability to use all the stuff in the trust. That makes a lot of people uncomfortable. A lot of people don't want other people, regardless, to have access to the money in the bank account. So what you can do is have agents, which are basically just contract help. I'm not going to say employee, but similar. It's a contract. And like you can have a secretary agent. So when you do your minutes, you do your board meeting, if you will, you can have somebody that's an agent do all the work. And then the difference is the agents do not get to vote on any decisions, where a trustee, all the trustees got to participate. They all vote. There's a couple of things in the Constitution that we've specified about what the executive trustee can do that other trustees can't. But other than that, it's all the same. And that being said, if you're creative and you want to create some situation where other agents or trustees don't do the same thing that you as the executive trustee can do, well, you got to narrate it in the trust, in the Constitution, and most importantly, know that you're not screwing anything up. But if you need help with something, consider contracting an agent. Or you can contract other trusts, or if there are other non-commercial entities that can provide a service for you. So, the real bread and butter of the actual work the trustee does is creating and executing the documents. You'll know if you're doing this process yourself, or if you're contracting with me for some coaching, or if you're having me write the trust for you. There's a lot of paper creation, especially in the beginning, especially when you set stuff up, and that's the trustee's duty. Okay, create the documents, get them executed, create that evidence of what you're doing, so that you can not worry about anything. So to create documents, and I'm kind of surprised I need to say this, but you do need to have some standard stuff. A standard office, okay? An office of a trustee. That's what you really want to think about, okay? You think about a corporation. I don't know why I always go to McDonald's. I don't go there, but talk about McDonald's. It's a corporation, right? Well, the CEO of McDonald's, he's got his own little thing going on, I bet. He's got his own office. He's probably got a secretary. Probably gets all the cheeseburgers he wants. But that's his office. That's where he handles this thing he does to run the entire company. Well, you're a trustee. You should be doing the same thing. You should have an office set up. You need to have a computer. You got to create paper, printer, scanner, a real office. And it really helps to have a style for your trust. A seal. A crest. Some colors. A certain font. A letterhead. When you take these templates, they're all generic. They're all in the same format. Jazz them up. Make them yours. Just change the font, if you will. Just to make sure it's yours. It's not going to really save the day or anything, but the stronger your trust is, the more coordinated it is, the more it looks like a well-oiled machine, the smoother it's going to navigate through commerce in any times that it needs to, okay? If you show up with just a stack of papers and say, oh, I'm a trustee, I do all this, and I want this, that, you're probably going to get some pushback. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, and you probably might get frustrated and quit. So having an office really, really will help. Okay, you're creating documents. You know what the duty is of the trustee. You're the performer. Well, outside of creating documents and creating all that backup, you want to keep your trust out of any type of harm. And the biggest harm your trust will see is being ensnared into civil courts, okay? Civil courts are not for people, and they're not for private express trusts. And because private express trusts are people and contracts of people, they do not belong in civil courts, okay? Civil courts are only for persons and derivatives of people and corporations. It's all of a commercial nature. And it's really, to understand it perfectly, civil law is positive law. It's rules made by others for other people. Okay? De facto, positive law. Common law, people are sovereign. We have our own rights. Just because somebody over there makes a rule, I don't have to follow it. We get tricked into it. Okay? And that's the whole name of the game, is they got these funny jurisdictions. And they work completely unlike what you'd expect. But as a trustee to a private express trust, you really got to know where that line is. And when you do, you won't forget it. Okay? It's very clear once you truly see it. But getting there is super challenging because it's just a big web. Again, make sure you're not keeping your trust. You got to make sure your trust is outside of commerce. Okay, now there's lots of ways to do that. You can just not participate. You can make sure your bylaws narrate that you can do certain things through your person in commerce. Or what I think is the easiest and clearest thing is that a trust can create and own an LLC, which is in commerce. And we'll go into this later in other videos, but just for your frame of mind, you got a trust in equity who owns an LLC in commerce. You can do everything. Okay, anything in commerce you want to do, you can do through the LLC. If you want to make money and grow the trust in the private world amongst people, amongst other trusts, you don't need to engage the LLC. You can just do it through contract. But jurisdiction, civil jurisdiction, common law jurisdiction, equity, commerce. All right, I got a lot of videos on the Rumble channel that really go into this. And to know your jurisdiction is also to know there isn't a soul out there that needs to know what's in your trust, and I mean that. Nobody has the obligation to just look into your trust. You're the defender of it. If you want to share it with somebody, by all means. But when it talks about jurisdiction, we talk about courts, we talk about other actors getting involved, you might be incentivized to just share it with somebody, but it's not a good plan. So, and you have the right to tell buddy no, and even in court, it's private, and you've got to have the courage and the strength to stand up and be able to do that at some point. You don't need that to have a trust, but once you create a trust, there's nothing there. It's just paper. But when you start putting assets in it, and the owner is the trust owns things, then you're engaging, and you got to really know how to walk the line, and it's not extremely challenging. Okay, communication is a big part of the trustee, and the biggest part is to know how to talk about the stuff that used to be yours. Okay, as the trustee, you own nothing. Okay, all your stuff is in the trust. It now belongs to the trust. Okay, that car you have is no longer your car. It's a trust car, trust vehicle. You're just the operator of it. Because that's what you are as a trustee. I operate all the stuff in the trust. I can do whatever I want with it. I'm not driving my car, I'm driving a trust car. Just saying that should trigger your mind how you can navigate getting pulled over, right? Or engaging in, hey, why are you doing this, whatever. Oh, I'm just following the trust rules. I'm operating as a trustee. It's very common for you just to get a bill out of the clear blue sky, isn't it? Have you ever had that? I had that here in Denver. We used to have free trash forever, and then all of a sudden I started getting a bill. That's an offer, really. It's not a contract. If you pay it and send them money, well, then you got something. But if you have no contract or you don't have any obligation to give anybody any money, the trust doesn't, you need to communicate with them, and you can write on the front of the thing they sent you or on the document, refused for cause. There is no contract. Okay, recognizing that is critical. You have no agreed obligation to do anything, so then you don't have to pay it. Now, if it's your electric bill or your phone bill or something like that, they're going to turn it off. But every once in a while you get stuff, like even court stuff. Someone court sends you something in the mail and you've never been served and you've never agreed to be in there, you can send it back. Refuse for cause. We have no contract. If the trust is harmed, somebody takes something to the trust property gets damaged. There's the common law process, okay? A notice of liability, notice of harm, notice of intent to reconcile, notice of intent to harmonize, notice of intent to file a common law suit. Communication. And then, should things not get resolved, there is a way to file a common law action in federal district court. I know federal district court scares people, but it's just a different set of rules, really, than the local courts. And they're bigger, fancier buildings. But I've filed multiple cases at federal district court, multiple cases at state courts. So you just got to learn the process. Okay. being a trustee and understanding trust and equity, you got to really understand the power of contracts. Okay, contracts are your get out of jail free card. Okay, if everything the trust does, everything the trust engages in is always in a contract, you are literally bulletproof. And I mean that. Unless you're committing fraud, hurting people, being a liar, if you're honest and you do stuff through contract and everything's above board, they can't do anything about it. They can't tax you. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, the state shall not create any laws to interfere with the obligations of contracts. That includes taxes. Okay? You get taxed because you really don't have a contract. You're just another person out there who's taking money from an employer. And since you're just kind of not in control of your affairs, they gotta make rules for you. Okay, well, you're not going to control your affairs. Pay us taxes. Okay, that's a little short, quick video about how to be a trustee. Hopefully that adds a little clarity. You know, we're right here where if you're following these videos spot on, you've got a trust created now, so you really have to know how to be a trustee. And the actual things a trustee is going to have to do, we're going to get into those videos here now. But having the mindset is critical because it's a different thing. It's a different world. And it's really powerful and it's really peaceful when you get it. And there's so much less things to worry about. You really got to worry about one instead of having to worry about 100 different rules that could ensnare you into some kind of bad thing. So, all right. Well, thanks a ton for your time. We're going to get into, I think, how to move stuff into the trust next. All right. Have a great day. Thanks again.